afternoon. For the record, my name is Kriscinda Hansen and I'm the CFO at the Gambling Commission. Today, I just want to give you a very brief budget update that's about the closeout of fiscal year 24 and just what we've seen in the first quarter of fiscal year 25. Next slide, please. Thank you. So fiscal year 24 ended June 30 of 24, and we have about 8 to 10 weeks to close everything for that fiscal year. So it takes a little bit to get all that done and then run all the numbers and provide this update. So for our revenue in fiscal year 24, I had originally forecasted 17.8 million in revenue. And if you recall from any of our my other updates that I've provided, that forecast was based on my understanding at the time that when we made a rule change to adjust the rates, that it would be implemented all at once. And because that was not the case and the rates were implemented as licenses renewed on a quarterly basis, it created an ongoing variance throughout the year. And so this is the $1.5 million variance that you see here is the end result of that rule being implemented over time rather than all at once. So we ended the fiscal year 24 with 16.3 million in revenue. Next slide, please. So our expenditures for the fiscal year originally allotted at 19.8 million. That allotment, we have to, when I submit our official allotments to OFM, we have to allot that as fully staffed for the entire year, fully expended. So our actual expenditures were 16.2, almost 16.3 million. The variance that you see there is a combination of factors, including staffing. We've talked a lot about the 10%. The 10% vacancy rate that we see, you know, it's pretty standard to have 8 to 10%, and that's just the time that it takes to fill positions when people leave. You don't generally get a 1-for-1 on that. And then some of it also you'll see is in contracting. The variance that we see here in contracting is largely because we took a step back on our approach to our IT modernization project. We took a lot more time to really analyze and define what our needs were before engaging with a contractor and deciding what our solution would be. And so why that is impactful to our fiscal year 24 expenditures is because when we originally budgeted the IT modernization project, we assumed that we would have purchased a software solution by the end of the fiscal year, as well as engaged multiple contractors in that project. Those funds still will be obligated. It's just that we slowed down the process a little bit to make sure that we were getting it right the first time as we move through each phase of this project. And then some of our equipment variance is because we continue to see supply chain issues with replacing vehicles. We are in a replacement cycle for several of our vehicles. However, there is no vehicle inventory to be had on statewide contract right now. So we continue to check and order as soon as we see anything come available, so that those funds will also be used just later than originally anticipated. Next slide, please. So for the current fiscal year that started in July, our revenue was forecast at 4.37 million. It came in at 4.34 million. So, and that is largely, you know, that's the result of the fee changes. But as well, when looking at the trends that we had seen with gross gambling receipts, I adjusted our forecast to have a more conservative growth in gambling receipts, because historically, prior to COVID, the numbers increased about 3% year over year, but we saw that slow down significantly. So part of this adjustment to our revenue forecast is more conservative growth in the gross gambling receipts. So then for our expenditures, again, fully allotted as required by OFM, we'd be at 5.38 million. Our actuals are at about 4 million. That variance, again, about half of it is because of the change in timing for our IT modernization project. And then just, again, other items such as the equipment issues and the difference between the being allotted at fully staffed versus our vacancy rate. So next slide. So that's the end of my very brief budget presentation, but I did want to share that as part of our ongoing analysis of the fees and hoping to prevent another, across the board adjustment that is very impactful, we've committed to reviewing the rates for, different license types as we go along. So I'm working on right now evaluating 6 different license types. 2 of those are the newer gambling activities, so the electronic raffle and the sports wagering. Vendor fees, we're evaluating the current fees that are paid for those 2 activities versus our level of effort in those areas. So more to come on that. And then additionally, I selected to evaluate house bank card room rates and fees, manufacturers, distributors, and then commercial punch board pull tab. So there will be information shared at a future Gambling Commission meeting in January. And if needed or necessary, we would have maybe request to initiate rulemaking to make adjustments if that's what we find when we get done evaluating. So any questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions from any commissioners?